that's one way I came up with this, looking through my notes. I'm always collecting notes on everything. And that is one thing. I'm not a nutritional scientist, but I'm just quoting somebody. And it could be 100 sources for this. But that's why sugars, refined sugar can really do you harm over a long period of time. Is that ultimately when Americans have a more of a negative effect to the virus, coronavirus, than other countries. Why? Because we've been eating so much sugar. It's in 50% of our foods, and we can't help that unless you're growing your own food, which is a really good idea. And so over time that, corn syrup, that stuff, it's in everything. And what happens is that undermines your immune system. And so then you get sick, and there's this storm that happens, and that's because of this process. And there's other ways you can get that kind of weakness. Obviously, everything we're doing, pollution. And I like to say, this is very important, okay? You think about what weakens your immune system and what builds it. And basically everything good, I'm going to make this as simple as I can. This is for those 5-year-olds in your audience that we're talking about. Okay, so 5-year-olds, everything that's good helps your immune system and keeps you from getting sick. And everything that's bad ruins your immune system and makes you sick. Okay, so think of good things. Good food, yeah, it's, cooked food, it's homemade, or raw food out of the garden, right? And good people who say good things and who's trying to do good and behave, respect others. Those are good things, and those build your immune system too. A good book, good music, helps your immune system, right? Okay, kids. So that word "good" is very sketchy when you rather try to put it down, but don't think too hard. You know what good is. In our Mi'kmaq language, we have the word "agalams," which basically kind of means good, but in the big picture, it's something. It's whenever anything is done the right way or is just right in itself and in harmony with all that is. We have a sign. We have heart, and then level. That's good. It's a sign for good. Is your heart, and that means it's all level with my heart. It's right where my heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's this good, and everything good helps your immune system, and things that are bad make you sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really so simple that scientists would throw up their hands and say that's ridiculous, but they know in their hearts that it's true.
Yeah, well, I think we're all given this opportunity right now to think in a simple way and to have simple lives. Our lives have been drastically simplified, if I could say it like that. People aren't driving as much, they're home based. You have a lot more opportunity to cook your own food, to grow your garden.
Right.
I've been collecting the wild edibles. And it's such a gift, that they're surrounding me, and I every day there's something to gather and I feel like I'm getting stronger from just
Mm-hmm.
participating more with getting getting a balance by um, communicating more with the natural out there, Mother Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm getting more overall, probably getting more sleep than I used to. Because, I used to, in the old days, like 2 months ago, I used to travel a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody once said I was like the cursor on the internet running around going from place
Yeah.
to place. Now, this seems like a good time for me to sing Open Up My Heart. What do you think?
Sure.
If I could do that, I could, you know, this is a new song. And I put it on Facebook, but so I'm going to mic it through this headphone, okay?
Okay.
Think Carlos Santana
Okay.
in a kindergarten. Spirit of the rainbow, open up my heart. Spirit of the rainbow, show me where to start. I want to know your light is always with me. I want to hear your colors in my songs. I want to find the path of beauty that I've been looking for so long. Spirit of the rainbow, ouvrez-vous mon cœur. Spirit of the rainbow, écoutez-moi cette heure. I want to know your light is always with me. I want to see you at the setting sun. I want to hear your voice of harmony that always speaks for everyone. Spirit of the rainbow, open up my heart. Spirit of the rainbow, show me where to start. Spirit of the rainbow, aperto mia core. Spirit of the rainbow, come una clef lustrare. I want to know your light is always with me. I want to see you in the setting sun. I want to hear your voice of harmony that always speaks for everyone. Spirit of the rainbow, unbedeckt mein Herz. Spirit of the rainbow, macht Asgold nichts else. I want to know your light is always with me. I want to walk with you down in every road. I want to feel your strength within me and the love that's solid gold. Spirit of the rainbow, Banadu Kamalamo, that's Micmac. Spirit of the rainbow, Ningisap Gio. I want to know your light is always with me. I want to travel with you in my dreams. I want to see you in the moonbow as you dance upon moonbeams. Spirit of the rainbow, open up my heart. Spirit of the rainbow, show me where to start. I want to know your light is always with me. I want to hear your colors in my songs. Yeah, but the night is cold and lonely, and it is so very long. Spirit of the rainbow, let me see your face. Spirit of the rainbow, please bless the human race. There
Oh,
you go,
yeah,
just for you.
beautiful. Thank you, Evan Pritchard, for singing us your new song today on Moccasin Tracks. That's great. Um, you can find Evan on Facebook. He's got a page there, but also um, look up algonquinculture.org for more information about some of the writings that Evan Pritchard has published, his books, um, and No Word for Time, Bird Medicine, The Power of Bird Shamanism, Native New Yorkers. And I love the Henry Hudson and the Algonquins of New York. I want to order that. Native Prophecy, European Discovery is the subtitle of that one. Henry Hudson and the Algonquins of New York.
Yeah, surprisingly, that's the book that probably has the most about the seven fires prophecies.
Oh, wow.
You know, currently in print, and Eddie Benez wrote, you know, the Mishomis book, which is of course the mother lode. But this book goes into a more of an analysis of what that prophecy means in terms of our actual history,
Uh-huh.
and you know, Eddie's was the oral teachings.
Oh, okay.
So, but you wouldn't know that. I didn't have the gumption or presumption, whatever, to think that I had all the answers on the seven fires. But you know, writing a book called The Seven Fires seemed very, you know, kind of pushy. But when I was studying Henry Hudson's life, I could see how very clearly these prophecies were coming true as he arrived in what is now called the United States of America.
Yeah. 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 Do you want to talk about that anymore? Some of the prophecies. I know you told us about a couple sessions ago about your teacher, your former teacher, William Commanda, and he talked about a prophecy of cutting down trees, and
Mm-hmm.
that was really powerful, and I still think about that. today, and the consequences of cutting down too many trees.
Right. There's a number of aspects, but I believe it was back in, I don't know, 1971 or 74. I can't, somewhere around 71. But he was doing an interview with a small Quebec paper that was in French, and he spoke French really well because that's where he was from, Quebec. But and in this little interview, he said this, and they asked him about the Seven Fires prophecies back then. You know, and he held the belts, the wampum belts of the Seven Fires, and he would speak to them, to the belts, you know, just kind of pray with them, and he would get answers. It wasn't that he was speaking to the beads, you understand? There was a spirit
Mm-hmm.
of all the ancestors that had held that belt and put their energy inside of it. And they told him that the trees, you know, if we keep cutting down all the trees, then we're all going to get sick, or a lot of people would get sick. And he talked about an epidemic coming somewhere down the road, maybe in his lifetime, maybe not. And turns out, I would say not, but this current epidemic fits very closely. And as we're coming to understand it, it does seem like people are trying to understand the coronavirus, and it seems like a large part of it has to do with our own inner immune systems and our own inner strength and our chromosomes and our DNA, RNA too, because viruses and RNA. So we've been cutting down a lot of trees, and including places where it's very crowded, where a city has expanded into a natural area. And so when you cut down the trees, the animals, the other animals, have to come out into our sphere and mix with us. And this is, nobody's sure how coronavirus really started. Well, some people feel sure, and maybe they're right. But, you know, that's one of the kind of ideas in general, is that we've crossed over a certain boundary of into the animals, other species world, and things get crossed up. And that's how some viruses enter our immune system. So cutting down trees also ruins our breathing. Our respiratory parts of our body are codependent with trees, because trees create the oxygen we breathe. And remember, we're talking about good things helping your immune. Well, good air is and good water are the most important building blocks for your immune system. And that's the Native American, how you say, the official beverage of Native Americans is water, and various teas and whatnot. And the official breathing substance would be oxygen. And it comes mostly from trees, other things. So if we cut down trees, we're cutting down part of our lungs, because trees are an external part of our lungs, okay? They create the oxygen, they absorb the nitrogen that we breathe out. We have to have trees in order to breathe. So, you know, and parts of the body actually look a little bit like trees in a way. And so you know, this is part of what's weakening our respiratory tract, which is what this virus attacks. And the ACE is attacked, and then it goes on from there. That's kind of hard to explain, but I've seen it explained. But we need to surround ourselves with trees and other oxygen producing plants. And, you know, I've started buying plants, you know, to put inside my house, but it's really hard to keep them healthy. And then I realize, well, what am I breathing if the plants can't, you know, do it? But you have to water them and put them out in the sun, put them in the window. But they're part of us. And this, what I've been talking about lately is this more quantum-based view, like a quantum field view. It's there's a unified or general unified field theory of life, is that there really isn't nature really in the quantum model. It's all part of this unified quantum field, which has several fields combined. And there's a quantum field, which is all basically light, or these little particles of photons or whatever of light, and quantum packets, and they're everywhere. And there's like 92 to the 10th power, no, 10 to the 92nd power of each of these little things in a single kind of like a sugar cube space of air. We're surrounded by this power, and if we can tap into it, we can change anything. We can heal ourselves, we can heal other people, we can communicate across distances, because the Russians, quantum physics, put it this, they talk about a solid vacuum. and that whenever you think of a vacuum, and certainly this is true with oxygen, that is empty, but it's not empty. And so everything you're moving in that vacuum or in the air, or spiritually in an etheric level, it's pushing straight through, directly contacting everything. It's the butterfly principle, right? And so this oxygen that's created by these plants, is pushing against other oxygen, creating this circulation of air that keeps us healthy and alive. And it goes into your blood system through your lungs. It goes into your blood, and your red blood cells are related to oxygen, right? And if you take more iron, there's less iron in our soil, so we're having plants that have less iron, and who knew? But your iron depletes, it's harder to get the oxygen into your blood and therefore sustain your immune system. So it's all interconnected. It's a web of life. Haha.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. These
So if you
connections. Yeah.
so if you take the iron out of the soil, then you're eating plants that have less iron. Therefore, it's harder for the oxygen that you've cut down. It's not coming from the trees either. It accumulates into stretching the web of life. So you can't see it. It's not usually sudden, but with the coronavirus, we're seeing it kind of sudden, right? That the tower is collapsing, and there's reasons it's collapsing, you see. But it's not just like, oh, you can't point to something that happened last week or in January in China.
Yeah, right. It's been accumulating. And so, wow, it makes me want to try to uh, get in balance, and we try to do that, mind, body, spirit, get it together, get in balance, and ultimately the balance when we're in community. And that's where we started this conversation, was to what does it take to build community. And we want we want a healthy community, and certainly that balance is so necessary.
Yeah, and that's also, you see different kinds of groups where there's some groups where everybody is meeting as equals, and maybe somebody is what we call an Aloigan in Micmac, which is the finger pointer. It's not a finger of accusation. It's a good thing. It means that person is helping to designate, whose turn it is, and that Aloigan has to be very fair so that people get the same, same amount of time that they want. And that's kind of how we do that circle model. There can be a director of a circle, just like in a choir. You have the conductor that's just helping everybody stay on the same page. But then you have another model where there's only, there's one throne, and only one butt can fit in that throne at any given time, right? And so you have the Game of Thrones model of life. Not that I watch it. I don't watch that show, but everybody loves it. But it's just like, that's another model. It's like, okay, so there's one room at the top, and we're all going to fight for it and kill each other. And that's the other model, and that's the tower, right? You see?
Yeah.
And you look at Tolkien, the two towers, all the symbols of the towers is like, this top-down power. And yeah, there's moments for that, especially in a military situation, that works, And some tribes who have a long military history tend to be really good at that. It's an art. And some of us who are just kind of, some people just say we sit around and sniff those flowers you're talking about. We're kind of like, we don't need a boss, And in our Algonquin society, which is mainly what I write about, there's sayings about this, like, we don't need a boss. We don't have to have a chief. There's a grand chief. This is all maybe make an important point. We have a tradition of having grand chiefs who are like way high up in this kind of a hierarchy. And yet what happens is when they pass away or retire, we don't necessarily replace them. Somebody has to be good enough and competent enough to take that office. Otherwise, we'll just go on our merry way. Thank you very much. So that's an Algonquin view that a lot of societies don't have, or they lost it, or they chose not to, because it's hard work there too. But the idea is that, yeah, we can do without a chief. We know how to live. But also, if you have a good one, that's pretty great, and we'll support that person.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I was just thinking, wouldn't it be funny if all of America decided to take the Algonquin model, said, we don't really need a leader. We're doing really good by ourselves. And we're seeing that happen with the coronavirus. We're seeing, oh, let the governors handle it. Well, yeah, there's some problems with that, but overall, it's a kind of a good strengthening exercise. It strengthens the circle, right?
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
at that, the early American flag at a circle of stars. That was a pretty good start, circle of 13 stars. And imagine now a circle of 50 stars where all these governors are kind of, they're talking to each other. And they're
Yeah.
saying, well, we don't have to do it like everybody else. The same thing with medicine is like there's the better model. I think Obama also promoted the idea of individual one-on-one relationship care, in that there wasn't just one pill for everybody in the world, like one vaccine for everybody.
Yeah.
And maybe that worked for polio and SOC, but it doesn't necessarily work now. We want individual solutions because everybody's different, and we say, everybody's different, and so we want people to have autonomy. Everyone wants to have a certain autonomy and direct connection with the creator without having intermediaries and middlemen. And so that's kind of how we ideally try to live, but it's very hard now.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it sure is. I just wanted to remind our listeners as we're coming to the end of our hour that
Mm.
Evan Pritchard is the founder and director of the Center for Algonquin Culture, and you can go to algonquinculture.org for more information and also to pull up his new catalog for 2020 of a lot of his writings and books and
There's
music.
about 70. There's about
Yeah,
70 things.
yeah.
Well,
And
yeah, and go ahead.
and the music is wonderful too. I love the children's books. It's really a variety. So, want to encourage people to go there and
And
gosh,
I now have 40 songs on my Facebook page, which is just, if you look under Evan Pritchard,
oh,
uh, sort through all the other Evan Pritchards in the world, and you'll find my Facebook. And they're just right now putting up, various songs that I think will help people spiritually. And, if people are going to get rude and nasty, I'll pull the whole thing. But right now, it's still,
yeah, and I think people like it. I've seen some really positive comments there, and
yes, thank you.
and I I love the stories that go with some of the songs that you share, how the songs come to you, which is really fun to hear some of that background. We've talked about a lot, but mostly exploring the building community and the models of the tower and the models of the circle. Is there anything in closing, Evan, that you'd like us to remember or take away from this conversation about community, about building community, and stretching the web
Yeah,
of life? Yeah.
yeah. Um, there is, I think, in anybody's life in America now, there's a tower part and there's a circle part, and you kind of need to keep a balance between the tower and the circle, unless you're really able to go off the grid. There's a little bit of tower, a little bit of circle, and so remember that on the internet, on Facebook and the social media sites, you've got to be very respectful and very kind, because one thing could just cause someone's tower to fall down, and that would harm the circle. To just be really real, how things really are today. That's how things really are. So you've got to be very careful to be respectful, um, you know, because you don't know what effect it'll have out there in the internet world.
Mm-hmm.
So please love each other, care for each other, and be mindful of what you're doing and saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's great. And I've been here at home getting to play some of my vinyl that I picked up some years ago, like 50 cents an LP and stuff, and I'm actually playing them now. And in the 70s, there were so many great songs about that, being kind and showing love. And so, I can't wait to put some of those out on the radio today. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
we do need that. We do need an
I just
abundance. Oh,
I just wrote a little book about 1969 and how all these very young people, a whole lot of young men at 25 years old, all born around the same time, all with this wonderful idealism and ability to visualize, went out into the world, and their lives just parallel each other, and really trying to make the planet a better place, and demonstrating extreme ability and mind-body coordination through music or sports or whatever, and then really standing up for equality and whatnot. So I just finished a little book. I call it Tom Terrific because of featuring Tom Seaver was one of those people. But just finished basically yesterday this new little
oh
book
wow.
about 1969, and that was also the following year is when some historians say that the Big Brother really came in hard, and there was a kind of a lot of like the academics and the military and the science all kind of joined forces to eliminate the little guy and make it all one big lobby.
Yeah.
And so 69 is apparently that last big year where that was happening. But we can have that back. And I think we're having it back now. I think now's the time to have like a new 1969, a new kind of voice of, many hundreds of thousands of voices calling for change and respect and freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, it's always fun to talk to you, Evan Pritchard. Thank you for sharing this time with us here on Zoom.
I love your show.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here on Moccasin Tracks. It's always an honor. You be well, and we'll be seeing you on social media, and we'll share this as well.
Okay. Great.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan.
You're
Bye
welcome.
now.
See you around. Up in the Multis. Up in the Multis. See you again.
Okay. Bye now.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Wow.